Welcome to the program. My name is Winnie Lubembe, standing in for Diana Rachel Mbugwa. Now, the aftermath of the Building Bridges Initiative report is shaping up to be a battle within the political class as leaders scramble to position themselves for the implementation of the report. The difference in BBI implementation positions has now escalated to the social media, where leaders are spewing division rather than the intended building of bridges. Take a look.
The bridge meant to unite the country in the Building Bridges Initiative report is clearly doing anything but bring the political class together, if the events of the last 2 days are anything to go by.
We wholeheartedly support the BBI process, and in the coming days, Your Excellency, we will be convening our legal and technical committees to comb through the report with a view to enrich and enhance the proposals therein.
Government, ministries and departments will implement sections of the report that require policy, that require implementation. Parliament will implement sections of the report that require changes to the laws or new laws.
The unveiling of the 156-page document earlier this week that was doubted to be the magic wand that ought to usher in a new dawn in the country is slowly but surely setting the stage for a spirited political debacle, this time over which way the document shall be implemented.
Let it not be to have wabunge ambao wataangalia tu kwa maslahi yao wenyewe peke yao. Let this be a people's document.
Report will be constituted into either a bill, whereby we are going to decide whether it is a bill of parliament, whereby parliamentarians will vote for it.
The country's second in command leaning towards a parliamentary way of bringing changes to the supreme law in line with the recommendation of the report.
Many institutions will participate in actualizing what Kenyans said in the BBI report. We must respect all institutions as we are people who respect the rule of law.
This march to the charge-in of leaders who have since the inception of the initiative rallied their support to throw their weight behind the Uhuru Odinga Unity deal.
Hiyo hamaki iliyosheheni jana tunawaangalia kwa umakini sana. Wasilete masharti ya kutueleza kwamba hili jambo ama ripoti hii isipofuata kanuni fulani hatuweze kuiunga mkono.
Let the people decide. Yes. BBI is the people's report, not the elite people politicians' report.
Kept hearing the call for everyone to read the report, but we want to say here that we must also respect those who prefer that the report is read for them.
The battle has now made its way online, catching the attention of the Deputy President William Ruto, who, while seemingly striking a calming tone, maintained his inclination to the parliamentary mode of change.
This process must be people-owned. It will not be taken to Parliament. It will go to the people at the end. The people of Kenya are the ones who will decide what to do with that report.
DP Ruto's sentiments come at a time when ODM leader Raila Amolo Odinga is advocating for a referendum to ensure that the BBI report sails through, in fear that MPs allied to Deputy President William Ruto will shoot down the proposals if tabled in the House. Abdiaziz Hashim, Ebru TV.
And sticking with the same, leaders allied to Deputy President William Ruto now say they support the Building Bridges initiative in its current form and want it subjected to a vote in Parliament. The leaders who had for the past several months opposed the initiative, should it propose a referendum, now want the report implemented as soon as possible, in contrast to what the ODM team is demanding.
Kuna marafiki wetu wa mrengo mwingine wanatuambia people must decide. And I want to tell you, you are living in the past, because hii mambo ya PPI, people decided for 1 year.
Ile mambo ingine yote ni mambo ya kutatuliwa kupitia legislation, hiyo tutafanya bungeni. Ingine ni ya kutatuliwa kupitia utekelezaji wa sera ama policy. Ministries watafanya hiyo. Lakini nikisikia watu wanasema mambo ya referendum, kidogo hata ninaanza kujishuku mimi kama mwanasheria. Ninasema, kwani ni wapi si kusoma hii kitu vizuri?
Na baba, ukitaka hiyo kiti ya Prime Minister, please kwenda Kibera, malisana na Imran Okoth na Mariga, shindana nao ukuwe mbunge. Hiyo ndio BBI inasema. Baada ya kuwa mbunge, uongee na naibu wa rais William Ruto ambao atakuwa president wakati huo, akuappoint ukuwe prime minister.
And a section of leaders from Rift Valley have congratulated President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga for launching BBI report that intends to bring the country together. Led by former Bomet Governor Isaac Ruto, the leaders said BBI is the right platform to bring peace and cohesion in Kenya.
The leaders said Rift Valley region is fully behind BBI, saying it is the perfect document to bring Kenyans together if implemented.
We throw our weight as a region fully behind the BBI report, as it forms a basis and framework for Kenyans of all walks of life to engage and collectively be part of fixing the ills that afflict our country.
Former Bomet Governor Isaac Ruto said the older generation should be a good example to the younger generation in preaching peace and cohesion, and at the same time showed remorse to the families that were affected by post-election violence.
I don't think the younger generations are busy talking about tribalism like the older generations. We don't want to bequeath our grandchildren with very, very primitive ideas about competition between communities, which is very unhealthy. It was very shameful for us to lose babies, to lose our children during elections, including that young baby who just got a bullet when she was just playing on the balcony.
Businessman Zedekiah Buzeki said political instability is the worst to happen in a country, saying Kenya has suffered a great deal.
Ordinary Kenyans have suffered a great deal because of negative ethnicity.
Leaders said BBI report has brought happiness to many, calling upon leaders to support it fully, including Deputy President William Ruto.
Kwa sisi wale tuliokuwa tunasema tuipatie nafasi mtoto azaliwe ndio tumlee, ni vivijo na nderemo kwetu sisi. Kuzaa mwana si kazi, kazi sasa ni kumlea.
My friend William Ruto, you convinced us and we are fully convinced with the reasons that the constitution we have now, we are on record saying it is not good. What has happened? Because an opportunity has come.
Reporting for Ebru TV, I'm Kaindo Stefano.
And elsewhere, the proposal by the BBI Task Force report for the formation of an ethics and commission, separate from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, has once again brought up the dwindling faith Kenyans have in the anti-graft body. Kenyans, according to the report, feel that the growing public perception of Kenya having a rigged system that rewards cronyism and corruption is the greatest risk to Kenya's cohesion and security.
Task Force report. Makofi.
The launch of the Building Bridges Initiative Task Force at the Bomas of Kenya on Wednesday marked the end of the process of the initiative, born out of the March 9, 2018 handshake, but clearly signaled the beginning of another perhaps longer and even murkier process, as some key institutions face serious shake-up.
And establish an ethics commission quite apart from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, so that we have a positive way of addressing the integrity deficit.
One of the institutions that could be overhauled if the recommendations of the task force are implemented is the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, with the task force proposing the formation of a separate entity that will help in slaying the vice that threatens to bleed the country to its knees.
I am Vincent Okongo, the Director of Preventive Services of the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission.
The commission, mandated to, among other things, promote integrity and combat corruption, has had a somewhat bittersweet relationship with Kenyans, whose faith in the anti-graft body seemed to be fading by the day.
The EACC continues to play its role. What we need to understand is that the problem of corruption is highly entrenched in our society, and dealing with it decisively will take time.
And if recent revelations of grand theft, each scandal larger than the previous, is anything to go by, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has a daunting task to explain why they seem to have dropped the ball.
The EACC has not dropped the ball. I think there's a lot of work to be done in this area, and it requires all agencies as well as Kenyans to play their role. And that is why we are saying a narrative change, so that Kenyans look at corruption not as a problem of somebody out there, but a problem of us as individuals that we need to change, have a mindset change about, will go a long way.
The scent of the letdown that many Kenyans feel about the EACC is now slowly but surely morphing into the terrible smell of betrayal. And when confronted, the watchdog becomes defensive.
Why have the public allowed people of lack of integrity to take leadership position? So I think Kenyans have a responsibility to play their key role in the fight against corruption.
Laying the blame on anyone but self.
The EACC goes out to various public institutions and carry out what we call systems reviews and corruption risk assessment by identifying loopholes and gaps that need to be plugged to strengthen systems of accountability in those institutions. The level of commitment of leadership in those institutions has been a challenge, but I think part of the problem is because we don't have an enforcement mechanism where if they fail to adhere to our recommendations, then what is the course of action?
That has led to many Kenyans get the feeling that the body should be disbanded or even merged with other institutions that have shown activity in slaying the vice.
I think what most people who make these statements don't know is that we have a better coordinated framework among the enforcement agencies. The EACC is still playing its role much more effectively. The DCI is playing its part very well. The ODPP the same, and even the courts are coming out very strongly, judging by the convictions we are seeing.
All right. Now, a group of youth under the umbrella of Africa Youth Trust wants all the recommendations of the BBI report implemented, saying that there is a likelihood that the youth will reap the benefits of the BBI report, which has proposed radical changes in the governance of the country. Take a look.
It addresses corruption. We feel like corruption has majorly affected the youth because most of the youth, despite them being learned or being in a position to access government opportunities, it has been really hard for them to do that.
Seeking to empower youth who are in these spaces, both social, either economic and political. We feel that the BBI report has made strong recommendations that are going to positively affect all political aspirations in the youth. One of the recommendations was to actually overhaul IEBC. We feel and we welcome this recommendation, and we feel that if we have a stronger and more independent IEBC, that elections will be free and fair, and free and fair elections has also been promised and has been recommended. And we feel like if implemented, one of the recommendations of having a public vetting of all nomination lists before people actually go to the elections will make sure that the right candidates are picked from the ground, and this is where the youth and the young people suffer, or this is where they are shortchanged. So we feel like if the recommendation is adopted to have public vetting of all candidates, the youth are going to be advantaged.
This is within the report, if you have read it, they have talked about simplifying the tax system generally, making it simpler for the entire country to understand tax. So, and this, I'm sure, will also benefit the youth in terms of how do we understand the tax system.
All right, now let's shift gears now and move away from matters BBI. And business persons at Sabit and Ortum are calling for speedy reconstruction of the Kitale-Kapenguria-Lodwar highway following the recent floods in the area. The traders saying the entire infrastructure in the region has been destroyed. They now want the Kenya National Highway Authority, KENHA, to take urgent measures to avert a transport crisis. At the same time, a number of youth have resulted to cash in by selling food to stranded travelers, while others carry people across the river. The disastrous landslide caused the death of 53 people who have so far been accounted. Tens of thousands are said to have been displaced. Residents are slowly picking up pieces as they come to terms with the death of their loved ones. at Chepera River in Weiwei, Pokot Central Sub-County. Most of the residents are affected due to huge volumes of water flowing and has cut the residents from accessing the Sigor Trading Center for supplies. Majority of youths from the area have used the opportunity to cash in from travelers by carrying a cross load and people at a fee.
Kama ni mama tunasaidia tu kama 50 100 wengine bure, but watu wazito ndo tunabeba na 200, pikipiki unabeba na 400. Hizo tunadai sasa as a group.
According to Joseph Toitoi, the youth are charging a minimum of 200 shillings to carry one across since it's too risky for one to walk alone. He has also lamented on the slow pace at which the government is acting.
Na tumeshangaa serikali yetu ya county pia hata national wamechukua muda mrefu kuja kuokoa watu, kuja kutusaidia hata wale watu wako pande ile wako na njaa. Hawana hata chakula. Sasa imepanda bei, sukari imepandishwa, kila kitu imepanda kwa sababu ya daraja.
Toitoi adds that few of the products that reach the market has seen prices skyrocket due to its transport cost across the river and few goods reaching the market. However, government spokesperson Cyrus Suguna, who toured the roads affected by the flash floods last evening in Sabit and Ortum, told residents that the government is doing everything possible in bringing restoration to damaged infrastructure and those families affected will be assisted by the government.
Iwe ni kurekebisha barabara, iwe ni kutengeneza mashule kama kuna shule imeharibika, barabara zinaendelea kutengenezwa, daraja zote zitatengenezwa, chakula wataleta, blanketi wataleta, dawa wataleta na kila kitu ambacho mnahitaji ili kwamba maisha yarudi katika hali ya zamani.
Lumut area in West Pokot, the leading producer of mangoes in the North Rift, has its produce rotting in the farms due to inaccessibility of roads that saw 4 bridges that link them to the market swept away. On ground, the Kenya Power and Lightning Company are working round the clock in putting back destroyed power lines, as well as the Kenya National Highways Authority, KENHA, who are repairing the Ortum Bridge. The landslide hit Parua, Nyarkulian and Muino areas over the weekend and according to KDF has displaced and affected approximately 22,000 people. The government is yet to give an exact figure in terms of total loss that was brought by the landslides in West Pokot. Winnie Lubembe for Ebru TV. And the Kenya Meteorological Department has warned of heavy rains in various parts of the country. According to the weatherman, the rains are expected to escalate from November 29th, which is today, to December 4th, 2019, and will continue for the entire season, but with occasional breaks. The main areas of concern include Narok, Kajiado, Bomet, Kericho, Nakuru, Migori, Nyamira, Kisii, Homa Bay, Kisumu, and Siaya. Others are Nairobi, Nyeri, Kiambu, Nyandarua, Kirinyaga, Murang'a, Machakos, and Makueni. Heavy rainfall being experienced across the country has led to overflowing in most rivers, and the grounds are already saturated with water, according to the Met Department, warning that flooding and landslides may therefore be triggered by any substantial amount of rainfall in low-lying areas and over hilly grounds. The Meteorological Department has asked residents to be on the lookout for floods. Last weekend, 3 West Pokot villages were rocked by catastrophic landslides that killed at least 53 people. All right, and once again, we caution you to be very, very careful if you are in any of those areas mentioned. Now, moving on, county governments have raised a red flag over what they claim to be a cash crisis in devolved units. This is after the central government failed to dispatch allocations following expiry term of the designated acting controller of budget. The Council of Governors now claim late disbursements of funds is likely to hamper county operations.
The county heads, through a statement sent out to newsrooms, claim that the 47 county governments have not received their November monthly disbursement of 31.6 billion, which was legally due on 15th of November 2019, an act which they say is likely to paralyze the county's day-to-day operation. The council maintains that the lack of director at the controller of budget has led to the delays, and therefore they urge the national government to fast-track the exercise of filling the position. According to the chair of the council, Kakamega Governor Wycliffe Oparanya, all county governments are on the brink of missing out on their targets for service delivery. This disruption has unfortunately come during the festive season and the time leading to the payment of school fees for pupils joining Form 1 in the year 2020. He further added that this will negatively affect all workers, suppliers and vendors within the county governments if not addressed urgently. The Constitution of Kenya 2010 under Article 228 mandates the control of budget to oversee the implementation of the budgets of the national and county government by authorizing withdrawals from public funds. To this extent, the term of designated acting controller of budget of 90 days expired on Monday 25th November 2019. Ultimately, this has led to inability for county governments to withdraw any funds from their revenue accounts. This comes even as the controller of budget nominee Margaret Nyakago has attributed that swelling public debt to failure by the National Treasury to rely on revenue projection produced by government agencies such as the Kenya Revenue Authority. Abdiaziz Hashim, Ebru TV.
And in the corridors of justice, a children's court has ordered embattled Innovation, Digital and Diaspora Communications Director in the office of the President, Dennis Itumbi, to start paying upkeep for a child he fathered. This was after results of a DNA test which Mr. Itumbi had demanded proved that he is the father of the baby girl. Elsewhere in Nanyuki, former Major Peter Mugure will remain in custody as investigations into the murder of his estranged wife continue. Our reporter Amelia Kisianya with more.
The Children's Court has directed Mr. Itumbi, who also leads Deputy President William Ruto's social media brigade, to pay the woman interim maintenance order of 20,000 monthly, pending hearing and determination of the case. The court also allowed the parties to try and reach out an out-of-court settlement on the matter. The mother of the child, through the family lawyer Enrica Dulo, demands an out-of-court settlement of 50,000 monthly maintenance, a medical cover and school fees when minor starts school. Other orders sought will expect Mr. Itumbi to provide a copy of his national identity card so that his name can be included in the minor's birth certificate. Elsewhere, a Nyeri court has allowed police to detain the third suspect in the murder of Joyce Tumbua and her two children, Mr. Peter Maina Mwangi, for 14 days to allow officers to complete investigations. The suspect, who was arrested on Thursday in Nanyuki, will be held at Kiganjo Police Station. State Counsel Martha Ndungu told Nyeri Chief Magistrate Wendy Kagendo on Friday that the suspect was yet to record a statement with the police. The bodies of 31-year-old Joyce Tumbua and her two children, Shanice Maua and Prince Michael, aged 10 and 5 respectively, were discovered on November 16th at Makaburini in Thingithu area, Nanyuki, while buried. Busara Naman for Ebru TV.
Right, time for us to take a very short break, but do not go too far. When we come back, remember the special report we promised you earlier, where our reporter, Ode Francis, of course, spent some time in Mtwapa in Kilifi just to take a look at the plight of sex workers. And this is after or following the world marking their 16 days of activism. You do not want to miss that special report. Stay with us. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. And that is on Ebru News Prime at this particular hour. Now, a report unveiled today by the Katiba Institute has raised doubts on how many ethnic tribes are in Kenya. The report says that it's not 44 tribes, but 100 tribes. The report looked at the participation of ethnic minorities and marginalized communities in political governance processes. Take a look.
According to the report, the research done in 16 counties found out that traditionally there have been said to have 42 ethnic communities in Kenya, but Makonde and Hindu tribes were added in 2017, making it 44. But in real sense, Kenya has more ethnic tribes.
There are over 100 communities in Kenya, and not the 43, 42, 44 that we often talk about. The study realized that out of those 100 and something communities, it's only 15 communities that form a majority in at least one county.
While speaking during the report launch, the program's director Ben Nyabira from Katiba Institute affirmed that most Kenyans from minority ethnic communities have far much been left behind on basis of ethnicity rather than developmental factors.
Marginalized for close to half a decade, finally they have an opportunity to get a job opportunity in public office through the devolution. So why should they share that limited opportunity for just one county, whereas some communities, the biggest community is dominant in 8 counties. The Kikuyu are dominant in 8 counties, more than 50%. The Kalenjin, again, in their diversity, are dominant in 8 counties.
Findings reveal that views on whether there were marginalized areas in respect to counties, it is said that 75% of the people were marginalized within their counties, while 11% declined.
Most of them have a negative view about public institutions. So they're saying it's not public institutions that have been most important to their participation. Interestingly, they first ranked community leaders.
Among the counties that are most marginalized in Kenya include Turkana, Marsabit, Mandera, Lamu, Wajir, Isiolo, Kwale, and Tana River.
To address their marginalization, because they perceive themselves to be marginalized, they had various things, but one thing that stood out is that most of them are saying the starting point has to be empowering the people, that the people need to understand their rights and to be able to demand for those rights.
With items that people were asked to point out that make them perceive themselves marginalized include lack of access to water at 32%, 28% said it is because of unaddressed historical injustices, 21% claimed poor infrastructure, 3% went to electricity issues, and another 3% on aspects such as health and education. According to the findings, it points out that the need to implement various provisions of the Constitution that seeks to address marginalization on equality and non-discrimination basis. For Ebru TV, I'm Ode Francis.
All right, now former Chief Justice Dr. Willie Mutunga has expressed concerns of a high number of femicide cases in the country, flanked by France Ambassador to Kenya, Line Custom Manager. The duo, while presiding over the 3rd edition of the Kenya Human Rights Defenders Awards here in Nairobi, said they will stand up and fight for justice for the victims. Our reporter Jeff Kayamba with more details on that story.
The support, a huge charity.
The 3rd edition of the Kenya Human Rights Defenders Awards took place at the French Embassy in Nairobi.
Ryan Muiruri, formerly
both young and the old, took to the stage to account the achievements, passion, and the motivation of the candidates, and not limited to the fight against the human rights violation.
That's what I think that global solidarities are about, solidarities among human rights groups all over the world, is that we realize that if we don't do what we're supposed to do, the planet will explode and implode.
With all of you, Kenya wins more social justice, more recognition given to the minorities, more transparency in decision-making processes, and a fairer society.
During the event, Domtila Chesang, who has been advocating for the fight against the female genital mutilation FGM, emerged the best in the annual awards.
Thank you very much. This means a lot. It means everything to me. I'm from West Pokot, my community subjects girls and women to female genital mutilation. They perform the type of FGM which is thought to be the most severe type of FGM. And as soon as a girl is cut, she's married off. That's it. So this is going to inspire so many girls in my community. It is going to make a big difference. The lives of the girls in my community will never be the same again.
Grassroots human rights defenders are known for denouncing the extrajudicial threats and the killings in slums at the expense of their own safety. In October, police allegedly killed 17 people in a span of 7 days in Dandora, Mathare and Majengo in Nairobi.
Defense of women's rights is a key aspect of French human rights policy, at home and internationally. Feminist diplomacy is not only about playing global, for example, to promote sexual and reproductive rights, but also acting on the ground to support social and economic rights of the women.
In defending human rights, let us not leave anyone behind. I would urge you. There are those persons with disabilities. There are those persons who are differently oriented from ourselves, people who are gay, people who are lesbians, people who are bisexual, people who are intersex, people who are transgender. Do we carry them along as we defend human rights?
The National Coalition of the Human Rights Defenders works to protect the human rights defenders and strengthen their capacity and influence and reduce their vulnerability to the risk of the persecution. Reporting for Ebru TV, I'm Jeff Khaemba.
Right, hearty congratulations to Chesang and everybody else who was awarded. Now listen to this. As the world marks the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, Kenyan sex workers face heightened risk of violence with little or no protection from law enforcement officers. Most of them fear reporting the incidents to the police for fear of being prosecuted for engaging in sex work. Our very own Ode Francis spent his better part of the weekend in Mtwapa town, Kilifi County, to establish the plight of sex workers in the town that never sleeps.
They say Mtwapa is the town that never sleeps. When the world goes to bed, the day literally breaks in Mtwapa. The town of love, sex, drugs and alcohol. To find out firsthand what goes in Mtwapa, I visited the town, and true to form, life in this sex city is best enjoyed when the sun sets. In Mtwapa, you will meet all types of female sex workers, locals and non-locals, and what they go through in the hands of police makes the business even riskier.
Sex worker niliingizwa na classmates wenzangu wakati nilikuwa nikisoma. Marafiki zangu ndo waliniingiza. Sababu niliona wanafaidika ile wakija shuleni, wako na pesa, wananunua vitu. Sometimes walikuwa naenda Malindi kwa wazungu wanapata pesa. Ndio wakaniingiza hata mimi nikaona si mbaya, mimi na mimi nikaingia.
With so many locals and foreign tourists camping at Mtwapa and so few other jobs available, for some, there is little option other than to join the sex trade, with their hard-hit targets being the tourists.
Sex work pia ni biashara. Na pia sex worker ni binadamu kama binadamu mwingine. Si ndio?
It saddens me that programs only reach a small minority of sex workers or men who have sex with men in many countries.
However, for women that engage in sex work, life is not always a rosy affair. Discrimination, stigma, being at odds with the law exposes them to sexual and physical violence. This also complicates their access to healthcare, thereby increasing their vulnerability to STIs and HIV/AIDS infections.
Njia yetu kutokelezea kufanya hiyo kazi, tutaka watoto wetu wakuje kufanya nini? Wakuwe wachokora, wavute unga, wafanye nini? Tunataka pia wapate future nzuri. So kazi yangu ni kubangaiza, kutafuta ma client. So client yetu ni either boda, hata daktari sometimes unapata, hata polisi unapata.
Despite the odds, those in the business say it's not their wish to do sex work.
Niko kazi, anategemea umepata aje client. Kuna client ambaye anaweza kutreat vibaya, kuchukua kama hatua kupeleka huyu client mwenye akona pesa. Ndio naomba serikali, hakuna mtu anajua anabeba mimba kama jeshi ama lawyer ama nini. tuchukue sisi binadamu kama binadamu yoyote. Hakuna mtu anatakia shida ama kwa nini.
Hasa challenge ni police harassment. Polisi wanakushika, after kushika wanakutishia kwa nakupeleka ndani, wanakutisha do. So unakuta hata hujafanya job, wanakutisha do. Wengine wanakuenda kuuse kwa nyumba zao, ndio wanasema nakupeleka station, hakufikishi station. Kwa sababu unaogopa kufika station ndio continue pelekwe ndani, unaogopa inabidi usikize venye wanataka.
Decriminalizing sex work is important so that sex workers access services, so that the people who buy services from them are protected as well.
With Cliffy being classified as HIV/AIDS medium epidemic county, most young sex workers are knowledgeable about reproductive health. However, in many cases, their circumstances often force them to have unprotected sex, as sex tourists offer more money for sex without condoms. Though condom use is high, estimated at just 92%, with 330 condoms distributed to each sex worker enrolled in HIV prevention programs in 2016. Antiretroviral coverage is also high at 79.7% among those aware of their status.
About wazungu, yeah? Wazungu wako, in fact, ukipata mzungu, wako na pesa nzuri. Wako na pesa nzuri. But mzungu naye inadepend ni anatakaje. Sometimes wanataka hata kuuse huko nyuma, inakuwa sasa ni mbaya zaidi. So wazungu wanakuja, lakini sasa inadepend ni mzungu gani umepata. Tena wazungu nao wamekuja wakachanuka huko pia bado. Wameanza kujua hizo bei zetu za huku. Tazamwambia 3000 akwambia no. Anajua kuwa bei ni 500.
HIV prevalence in Kilifi is less than the national prevalence at 4.5%. That is according to the HIV estimates of 2015. The county contributes 3% and 2% of the total new HIV infections in Kenya among children and adults respectively. Kenyan sex worker faces heightened risk of violence with little or no protection from the law enforcement officers. None had reported the incident to the police for fear of being prosecuted for engaging in sex work.
Najikinga, najua maana nimefundishwa na nishaenda kufundishwa na jamii, yani kama hizi organizations zanifundisha venye nitajikinga. Lakini kama hao wenye hawana elimu yote wasiingie kwenye hii biashara. Mimi natumia PrEP sasa hivi. Nilianza tangu mwaka jana natumia PrEP, ni dawa ya kujikinga ili usiambukizike virusi. Sasa niko na mwaka mmoja na kama miezi miwili tangu nianze kutumia PrEP.
Especially among female sex workers, we advocate for both use of oral PrEP together with condoms.
For those sex workers living with HIV, frequent arrest and detention result in interruption of HIV treatment.
We have managed to give oral PrEP to around 800 female sex workers. When we look at the impact of that, then we see risk compensation behavior where the women who have been given PrEP are more knowledgeable about other HIV prevention modalities.
According to reports from the UNFPA, female sex workers are reportedly better at protecting themselves from HIV transmission compared to other groups who are vulnerable to HIV. This may be due to the fact that 76% of sex workers are estimated to be able to access HIV services, higher than among other key population groups. With the 16 days of activism activated this month, sex workers are yet to be protected by the law enforcers to make their life easy, and access to their reproductive health services also a matter of concern.
People who do the morals, the churches, open the doors. They let them in. But the governments make laws criminalize them. It beats my understanding.
According to the UNAIDS estimates in Kenya, prostitutes in Kenya are more than 130,000. Most of them saying that it's not their wish to get into this business, but they urge the government to at least give them a space to make sure that they earn a living, while at the same time give them reproductive health information and services. For Ebru TV, I'm Ode Francis.
Right, thank you so much, Ode Francis, for that special report. And indeed, every human being should be treated with dignity. And of course, this regardless of your age, gender, and of course, most importantly, regardless of the job that you choose to do. But good thing that is on the positive side is that most of them, actually 75%, have access to HIV services. So that is a really, really good thing to know. Now, time for us to take another short breather, but do not go too far. We'll be right back with business news. Deputy President William Ruto has officially launched Nile Basin Initiative Hydromet project in Nairobi. The DP has urged Kenyans, especially those living near the source of the Nile Basin, to ensure a water-friendly and clean environment, which will largely contribute to the quality of water supplied.
Water defines the environment in which humans seek to thrive. Simply put, our livelihoods are severely impaired without it, and our very lives are endangered to the extent that water availability and quality is impaired. Kenya is strongly motivated by the regional institutional mechanisms provided by the Nile Basin Initiative for the sustainable management and development of the Nile Basin system. The state of the Nile Basin is therefore a matter of great interest and deserving of the most dedicated attention and highest priority. Severe impact on the livelihoods of the basin's inhabitants. Most of our water resources are severely degraded, depriving us of essential environmental benefits. I take this opportunity to thank our key partners, especially the World Bank, African Development Bank, the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency, and the French Development Agency, who have played a key role in financing the activities of the Nile Basin Initiative since inception.
And elsewhere, Kenyans will now be able to use digital post office boxes to send and receive letters and other documents in the country. This is after Postal Kenya and Safaricom launched M-Post services, which will benefit more than 5 million customers countrywide.
By Safaricom and the government of Kenya.
According to communication officials, Kenya's economy is increasingly digitizing, leading to the growth of online delivery of goods and services. And through such services, Kenyans are able to affordably receive parcels and goods across the country.
What is being launched today is enabling all 27 million adults in Kenya have access to a postal address to be able to improve their lives, to be able to receive their letters on time.
Officials say the innovation will help meet the shifting demands of customers in a modern digital world. This partnership will enable more than 34 million customers to access postal services from the 625 postal outlets spread across the country directly from their mobile phones.
It makes logistics for e-commerce seamless and to serve the Kenyans much faster.
Under the partnership, customers can dial *234# or *234*1*9# and conveniently register for a post office box linked to their mobile number. The service will be priced at an affordable 300 shillings annually.
That we can see the growth and development of our economy also through the digital services that we offer, led by our youth, led by our innovators. We have great innovations that work for us.
Kenyans have also been sharing postal boxes, compromising their privacy and confidentiality, especially for sensitive deliveries, leading to mail recipients being unaware when their mail is due. Reporting for Ebru Business, I'm Kaindo Stefano.
Into something that should concern you, Kenyans will now be forced to dig deeper from their thinning pockets as the November inflation rate skyrockets to a 4-month high of 5.6% from 5% in October, according to data from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. The notable rise in the Consumer Price Index is as a result of the significant increase of key foodstuffs, which outweighed a recorded increase.
Unga prices, for instance, rose by 4.3% on a month to keep up with the observed hike of 5.8% in October. Other commodity price increments observed in the pricing of Irish potatoes, tomatoes, and mineral water, with the latter seeing costs rise from the implementation of the accessible goods management system to outweigh decrease in the cost of milk and sugar. Midway through November, the Energy, Petroleum and Regulatory Authority impacted increments to fuel prices across the board by an average of 2 shillings and 72 cents to impact both energy and transport costs during the month. As such, the Housing and Transport Index, which accounts for accompanied weight total of 27% of the household consumption basket, rose by 0.3 points as rent and cooking costs surged forward from November. Combined food and fuel cost impacts nearly 3/4 of the average expenditure of households.
Time for me to take another glass of water, but do not go too far. We'll be taking a look at the sports news. All right, in the interest of time, that is where we conclude Ebru News at this hour, and that is Primetime News. Thank you so much for staying with us. My name is Winnie Lubembe, of course, wishing you a lovely night. But then again, we cannot forget a very, very big team behind us who put together this bulletin, from our reporters to the technical team, who are very, very many. We cannot name all of them, but we just want to say a big thank you for staying with us. My name is Winnie Lubembe. Have yourselves a lovely night, but do not go too far. We have excellent programming coming your way right after this. Good night.